Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Mandi McLeod. In this edition, milk wars. Who really benefits from the high consumer prices? What is a fair price for our agricultural products? And how do farmers protect their profits? On another dairy front, are cow cockies really all that dirty? We take the pulse of the latest effluent compliance issues. And ACC plans a crackdown on farm bike accidents. Where are Kiwi farmers going wrong? Joining me today is Waikato dairy farmer Malcolm Lumsden and fellow farmer Jim Cotman of North Waikato. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Now, Country 99 TV website has announced that the Commerce Commission, in a bizarre U-turn, is going to have a look at the milk price. Malcolm, as a dairy farmer, as a Fonterra supplier, how do you feel about this?
Oh, I'm pretty annoyed about the whole argument of milk pricing. I welcome the look at it. You know, we're being pillarised. If the nation wants to continue to bite the hand that feeds them, fine, but don't look at milk price alone. Let's look at all our staple commodities. The growers, particularly the vegetable growers, have had a hard time. Meat and wool farmers have been on survival mode for a long time. Let's open the books if you're going to go that far. So, Jim, you represent both, you know, you've got interest in both dairy and sheep and beef. What do you think about what Malcolm's saying around that? I mean, we know, for example, that the average dairy farmer gets about $1.60 for 2 litres of milk, and at the supermarket it's anywhere up to $4.80.
Probably the point is, at the moment, it's about time that we found out where the profit is really being taken. And while I don't think it needed a Commerce Commission to step in and take this step, at least maybe now we'll see somewhere where the profits are. It's probably a little bit like the Australian situation that is happening over there at the moment, with the fight that's going on over there.
Do you think, Malcolm, that we'll end up with the similar sort of fight that's happening over there?
I'd like to see that, because what's happened in Australia is they've got a European food supermarket have come in, and that's caused some competition. We've only got 2 suppliers in New Zealand. We need competition. That's the problem. And if we get some transparency into the food pricing, well and good. We've got nothing to hide.
So do you think that, sort of coming back to Fonterra's argument around that they are simply reflecting world milk prices in our supermarkets, Jim, I'll come to you. What's your gut feeling around that?
I think they probably are. The reality is, as a farmer, we base our price on what we receive around the world. And I guess that's what they're saying here, is that we've got to be fair in that. We're not going to cross-subsidise. Is there a cross-subsidy system back in New Zealand or not? So I think their argument's valid. But as I say, I think that the real point is what's going to happen with exposing, I guess, the markup past the farm gate. Whether there is a sufficient markup for Fonterra to make a profit in its 2 divisions or not, I'm not sure. But I think there's a reasonable profit in the supermarkets. The
World Bank has announced that 44 million people have been pushed into extreme poverty since June as a result of food supply being short, and that the international trend is for food prices to increase. Australia, because of Aldi, apparently, have bucked the trend and have lower food prices. Do we want to see Aldi or equivalent come into New Zealand?
That'd be good.
Probably put a little bit of competition in.
Yes.
And the interesting thing, I've just come back from Western Australia and I was looking at the food wars there with what's going on, and the media's written up, I guess, and forced the issue that it's the farmer that's getting pushed down because the price might go down, etc. That's not actually what is happening. I know farmers are saying, hey, let's take care with this. I don't want to be pushed into a corner. But the way I read it and what I saw over there was they're not. Coles and the supermarkets are taking the cut. They've increased the amount of milk that's being sales by a phenomenal amount, and so it's increased sales, increased throughput in their company. So it's been a good thing. I even see Murray Goulburn, in fact, have increased the milk price to its farmers. I think it's an Australian $5.45, which is about $7.40. So it's not all bad. A bit of competition, as Malcolm says. Perhaps that's what's needed here too, Mandy, to shift the goalposts a bit.
But the real issue in the world, Mandy, is not that the food shortage isn't being created by the countries that have got free markets. It's been created by all these idiot dictators who want to control, spend their money on weapons and ignore the needs of their population. And we're constantly seeing that around, like North Korea. Libya would be another example. So if it wasn't for America and the free market food producers, the world would have been in a greater food shortage a long time ago.
How do you think that figures in that, for example, the UK, 30% of all food purchased ends up in the bin?
Well, what do you say?
Jim, I mean, you know, how do you think that's impacting on this issue of food shortage?
Yeah. Probably quite significantly, Mandy. I think it's horrific, our tendency to not value food. It probably comes back to the point that we're making. There should be a fair value on good food and good quality food which New Zealand produces. And I don't think there is. I think we shouldn't be having this commission of inquiry about pushing the price down. We should be having a commission of inquiry to see what's the true value and what inputs have gone in to make that value up. Talking
about food inputs and the quality food, Fonterra under the Clean Streams Accord have really just announced that there has been a 1% increase in non-compliance and a 5% increase in compliance. Why is there so much issue still around dirty dairying?
Oh, it's a beat up all the way. And for example, I got the significant non-compliance prosecution notices from Bryant Waikato. I got 139 notices, I think. Of those 100...
That's not you personally, Malcolm.
No, not me personally. However, there were only 5 instances in those where farmers may have been discharging the water. The rest were technical non-compliance issues, such as not doing the paperwork, etc., etc. That was touted, 139 out of 4,000 farmers in the Waikato region. That was touted as a large percentage of farmers not complying. It just doesn't stack up. It's a beat-up. And I think in terms of the Clean Streams Accord, we need to look at why they're not complying. Let's see how they're not complying. Is it technical or is it real?
So do you think, Jim, that it's the alliteration of dirty dairy that has really got people? It's become more around a media soundbite.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's why we're sort of really annoyed about it. See, I get up in the morning, and when I came here today, Raven comes to me, have you cleaned behind your ears, you know, washed your neck? Dirty dairy farmers, you know, it follows us everywhere now, Mandy. Yeah. But if we didn't take it lightly, yeah, it's a serious issue that's could have cost New Zealand a lot of money.
So talking about serious issues, ACC have now just announced that they're going to crack down on quad bike accidents, farm bike accidents. Malcolm, I can see you rolling your eyes. Jump in.
Well, you know, how many people were injured when we had horses instead of farm bikes?
Oh, that's a pointed question for me, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, baby.
Look, I know of 2 people in our district who were killed with horses, well, big name people. The other thing about the farm bike accident rate is they don't separate out whether it's quad bikes, 2-wheel bikes, whether it's motocross events or other non-commercial activities taking place. The figures are all just lumped in. And I think the coroner McLean is just completely out of this area. He appears to have taken on a personal crusade on this, and I don't think that's where he should be.
Jim, you're involved in Wairapa Moana, so you've got a lot of staff.
Yeah, 40 or 50 staff.
Potentially a lot of those guys are, you know, at the lower end of experience. How do you deal with this issue?
Yeah, well, the operations managers deal with it, obviously, and with the management team, but I think the thing is to take them through a training program in active riding on bikes, and that's a really good program. They all have helmets, and then I think where we're heading with this, there needs to be a bit of self-responsibility. And that's what we're trying to drive home, I think, to the people there. Hey, look, we'll provide you with this. We'll provide you with the skills that we can provide. But after that, isn't it self-responsibility that's going to drive it? So we're trying to get that through. The other thing in that organisation there, for instance, a no drugs policy on farm.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I'm not saying this happens in farming, but this happens in all business. So there's things like that I think will help in it, Mandy.
But, you know, the farmer's going to be held responsible. We had a guy recently who went to work to milk in the morning, shut the gate behind him down the farm. When he went home from milking, drove straight into the gate. That he closed himself. So where's the individual responsibility? No, the farmer's responsible. The farmer has to write an accident report. The farmer has to ask the questions. Was he adequately trained? How do you train a person not to close a gate and then drive into it? You know, it's where are we going with this?
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one, Malcolm. Okay, coming up after the break, It may not be CSI Miami, but find out how DNA is being used to track illegal seed breeders here in New Zealand. And news are fetching record prices with tight supply. How's that affecting farmers and the rural economy? Is it a case of let the good times roll? And the natural disasters a silver lining for some sectors? Why forestry owners are cashing in? Come back after the break. Welcome back to Straight Talk. Commercial seed growers are planning to use DNA to track down growers producing and selling ryegrass seed illegally. This may sound a bit extreme, but the illegal trafficking of grass seed costs the industry millions of dollars. Malcolm, what are your thoughts about this? How do you see us being able to use DNA in the field practically?
Well, it is a proprietary issue, and these people have obviously taken patent rights out and produced a seed. It's no different from producing another material such as a washing machine or another product. You take a patent right out. Where someone is growing it illegally and propagating from that, it's no different from someone taking a patent in another field and doing the same thing. So they've got every right to do it.
Jim, are you surprised that this costs the industry $10 million?
Yeah, I am actually. I rang up some of my mates in the Coromandel to see if they knew anything about it, but because I wasn't sure about this DNA and seeding, and I thought maybe there's something that I've been missing out on, Mandy. But yeah, I am. It is a big issue, but for God's sake, let's be very careful what we do about it.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, how heavy-handed we're going to be about it. There must be an easy way of fixing it.
But where someone is growing it commercially for sale, that's the issue. If you go outside that, you're being silly.
Yes.
I guess I find it quite extraordinary because I'm not sure how one would go about buying illegal seed. Malcolm, you don't have to answer this in fear it may incriminate.
Well, no, you probably wouldn't know the seed was illegal. That's the point.
Right.
You'd buy it from someone who is a seed merchant. Where they got it from, you don't trace unless you trace the P&G certificate. And so that's the issue.
So is it really going back to the likes of our Arty ones and Wrightsons and Farmlands and things like that? They're the ones that are going to be ending up potentially having the DNA done at source rather than us, you know, seeing someone come out in a white coat and
Absolutely. With most things like that, they need to be taken back to the source. That's where the audit should start. And keep it away from us.
They'll be, when they source the seed, they'll be sourcing the P&G certificate, which is purity and germination. I would expect Wrightsons and RD1 to be reputable dealers.
Absolutely.
It'll be the fly-by-nighters, the backyard sales that you need to watch.
Okay.
But we have got a lot of unemployed at the moment, Mandy. Maybe there is a job out there for white coats and people. Would it be fun under every seed? Oh, it'd be great. Clover seeds especially, they're about that big.
I was thinking the practicality around, we've got a lot of wind pollination and things like that.
Yeah, I know.
So, it surprised me that it costs our industry millions of dollars. That was kind of the issue.
Yeah.
Now, Straight Furrows, Rob Tipper, warns sheep farmers not to get too relaxed about the price of sheep. This comes as the price of sheep meat has meeting, is record highs versus from a supply versus a strategic plan. Jim, you first. Is this a case of same old, same old?
Possibly, but I mean, I'm not sure why we should be not celebrating the fact that there is a lot more money back in the industry. For a long time, there hasn't been any. It's been a tough decade, actually. And so I guess people are going to celebrate the fact that prices has risen. And is it really a total protein rise, price rise across the world that's causing this to rise? So I'd be celebrating it rather than worrying about whether it's long term or short term at the moment, and take it while it's there. Inside of that, though, I think there's a need for a strategy, and I think that's where the new beef and lamb marketing is looking at. I think that's where the PGP funding has gone in terms of trying to get some of the sector together. So yeah, not before time, I would believe, Malcolm, but it is important to do it from a position of strength, and I guess that's where we are now finally with the sheep and meat industry, that they're getting themselves back in a position of strength.
Malcolm, we've seen after the October storms a large loss of lambs. Millions of lambs were lost, meaning that we actually have fewer lambs to sell. Given that that's obviously had a flow-on effect to where we are now, is that something that we should be taking on board a lot more seriously around supply?
Well, I guess it demonstrates the laws of the marketplace. Supply and demand dictates price. And I feel very badly for the sheep and beef farmers. They've living on poverty line now for a number of years, and that hasn't been really recognised by the consumer. And I think I agree with Jim, we should be celebrating those good prices. After all, at the end of the day, a good farmer who receives a good price for his product is the best environmental manager we've got in New Zealand. So that's good on the sheep and beef farmers. I hope they do well, and it'll be good for the rest of New Zealand.
Now, we've seen the tsunami and the earthquake in Japan. It's resulted in a rise in log prices for New Zealand. Supply and demand issue again. What do you think about the fact that it was only maybe 10 years ago that Landcorp took out a lot of immature pine trees to put into dairy?
Well, it could be seen as short-sighted, but we did sell off into overseas ownership a lot of our pine forests. We can't tell. The thing that bothers me at the moment is you can buy New Zealand pine cheaper overseas. And in fact, in talking to a building consultant the other day, we have to import pine from Australia for some structural timbers, because the New Zealand pine now is of such low quality. I think not that pine per se is low quality, I think we're exporting the best stuff overseas.
Right.
And so there will be a continued supply and demand situation. The situation is now that those who are in pine are virtually locked in by price penalty if they try to take the land out. I think the rush to take land out of pine was caused by government interference in the marketplace, and it was all done in a hurry to get. And that was a good demonstration of why government should keep its nose out of commercial decisions.
And all it's done really is now lock people into a way of farming that maybe is not what we want in the long term. Who knows? You put a price on that block of land, so therefore if you want to change to some other type of farming, you are going to pay that penalty. So I'm not sure that's good for long term growth in New Zealand. We have to swing with the world markets. And as you say, Malcolm, the world price has gone up for logs, so those that are in it now make a buck, but they haven't made a buck for a long time.
Talking about supply and demand again, Sauvignon Blanc, it's been an absolute cracker year for the grapes.
Yes.
Supply versus demand?
Yes.
Malcolm, you?
Oh, great for the consumer. I guess the advantage will be that they've followed the market trend. They've just overdone it a wee bit, but the price will come down and people will get weaned onto the product, and then when the price goes up, they'll be continue. So it all goes in a little circle, but I think there's plenty of happy people around at the moment.
Happy people for you. So you're buying up a lot of Sauvignon?
Oh, no, I have my little tibble.
Always got to have take opportunities when they arise,
I think,
Malcolm.
you know, yeah. And I think that's the marketplace, you know. They overcommitted, and that's the decisions they made. That's their problem. They made the commercial decision. It'll come back.
But do you think, like, this has been our cycle for donkey's years, this supply, demand, you know, feast versus famine. What's it going to take for us to actually regulate ourselves as growers and producers, or is that just human nature?
Mandy, that's a dirty word. Look at those countries that tried to regulate their food production. Look at Russia and the Eastern Bloc companies. Couldn't feed themselves in the end. Look at England now. England can't feed itself because they've got more people regulating farmers than they've got farmers. And so it goes on. Let's enjoy the free market. There are roundabouts and swings. Let's capitalise on the opportunities and take the downsides admirably when we have to. So I just don't agree about this regulation.
Oh, that's a great time to take a break and let you cool down, Malcolm. Coming up after the break, we ask Jim and Malcolm if they have a rant or a rave. What will it be? See you soon. Welcome back to Straight Talk. Time now to find out what's pushed our buttons. Will it be a rant or rave? Okay, Malcolm, you go for it.
Well, both. I'd like to congratulate Kate Wilkinson on dealing with Canada geese, one of my pet hobbies for the last 20 years. And my rave, my rant really is about why, as a Fonterra owner, and I'm an owner, and I get sick of people saying Fonterra is a multinational. It is owned by 10,000 farmers in New Zealand. Why we're forced by the milk regulation to supply milk to natural dairies, who are then going to sell it into China under the Fonterra name as Fonterra milk. We've got no quality control of that product as it lands in the marketplace, and I think this is a hugely dangerous issue for Fonterra and for New Zealand that need to be dealt with immediately.
How can we do that?
Oh, I think we've got to do away with this requirement that we supply this milk to these other companies. Why should we be? Why should I be taking a hit on my milk price supplying milk to natural dairies? I just don't agree with it.
What's it going to take to get the government to change that, do you think?
Oh, I think the government's going to have to change it. Well, let's hope it doesn't take faulty product going into China to force that change. And that could happen. There's no guarantee it won't.
We very much hope that, don't we? Jim, what's got your goat?
I guess my rant is the difficulty of having mainstream farmers being portrayed on media, TV, for instance, for what they really do. Whereas you get an hour or half-hour segment on a primetime news about some twerp sitting in a cage.
Some twerp sitting in a cage?
A cage, yeah, going on about pretending to be a chicken. And it takes prime time, it catches prime...
I think I must have missed it.
You missed it. Oh, thank goodness for that. But that's if that's the quality of our news media, you know, I'm really concerned when there's so many good innovation, a whole lot of other new things that are happening out there in New Zealand, for New Zealand, that you should be able to highlight. So that's a major pet hate of mine, I guess, is that they spend all the time on trivia, and that seems to be what spins people's buttons. So thank goodness we've got some programs like this, Mandy.
I can guarantee we won't be having a
Thank
man
goodness
in a
we've got some programs
bloke
like
in a cage. Or if it is, he will not be pretending to be a chicken.
There's a few would like to put me in a cage.
Yeah, but we'll let you off this time, Malcolm.
Well, I've got a question for the two of you as my rant. I'm sure you've heard about Hugh Jelly's project looking at the caring dairying audit process of selling milk, UHT milk, back into some markets. What are your thoughts about this?
Don't know too much about it, Mandy, unfortunately. But is it going to be a fully audited system? I'm not sure. My
understanding from reading in some of the newspaper articles is that there has been an audit process that's been developed that they're looking for farmers to come in and be audited under an animal welfare standard. Allegedly, Hugh Jelly, who remember was a Crayford vet, is not putting any farms that he has been, he's got a shareholding in. Allegedly, he is not putting those in and against his audit standard. So, two things. My one is how do you feel about that? And how do you feel about the fact that if we've got a program that's auditing farmers against animal welfare standard, what does it say about the rest of us?
Yeah,
we have already got a standard that we audit ourselves against now, AWAC, and I'm not sure what the name of it is actually, but there is a standard there that we audit against. So I don't see shifting the bars like that for
the dairy code of practice is what you're referring to.
That's the one I'm referring to.
Yeah.
So having a little separate segment out there is, I think someone was trying for a market advantage, but I don't think that's what it should be for an industry this big.
We've got everything to be proud of. We have the odd blip that makes the headlines with animal welfare, and that's sad. And there's generally another core to that being financial problems or other issues that compound. And they're dealt with properly and effectively. Our veterinary services are so professional, and they are on the farms all the time. They keep an eye on issues. If the problem arises, they notify the proper authorities. For goodness sake, don't let us get like Britain, where we have someone walking down the drive every week with a folder saying, I'm going to audit your farm on this. That's not what we want. I think we're doing pretty well, and I think we're going to hold our heads up high at this point.
So with that, Malcolm and Jim, what do you think about the fact that Dairy NZ and Fonterra have signed an agreement with MAF to do pretty much exactly that?
Yes, we have to have quality control standards.
Yeah, I've seen where they're heading with that, but that's going to be that's done across the sector, across the industry, with our levy-funded organisation, Dairy NZ. Had a look at that. We know we have to have some sort of internal audit that's acceptable, but it's going to be a one for the industry, for the sector-wide. So there's a big difference between that and having someone go off to the side and design a little audit system there, which maybe is an advantage to them.
We can't do any major programs on our animals without consulting the vets, and that process is all written down, and there's a proper process to follow, supported by Fonterra and MAF. In terms of our effluent, we have to have a record there that gets reviewed when the farm gets inspected by the dairy inspector. We've got a lot of procedures in place. But we've also got people out there who think that we need to go a lot further. So that's where it is. Let's see what happens.
So on average, we're doing a darn good job.
I think
Thanks,
so.
Mandy. I think we are.
I think we are too. Right. Thank you very much for coming on the show. As always, you guys are a laugh. That's it for this edition of Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Furrow. I'd like to thank my guests, Malcolm Lumsden and Jim Cotman, Waikato dairy farmers. Great talking to you both.
Yeah, it's been great.
And of course, I'd like to thank you for watching. For more information, check out my blog on country99tv.co.nz. As always, I look forward to hearing from you. And in the meantime, keep on talking straight. See you next time.